This defense wasn't great last year. This defense got worse.
Whoa! This is a high-powered offense.
He has not shown himself to be a valid NHL coach.
This is the epitome of mid.
What's up? Welcome back to Gary's Basement, your one-stop shop for everything hockey. Today we are starting our deep dive of the Metropolitan Division. We're doing a full breakdown and predictions for every single team in the NHL. Today we'll be covering the Carolina Hurricanes, Columbus Blue Jackets, New Jersey Devils, and New York Islanders, as this will be part one of our Metropolitan Division two-episode series. First off, we are getting into the Carolina Hurricanes. They finished second in the Atlantic last year and made it a run all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals before losing to the Florida Panthers. Some changes, not a super different team. We'll discuss now how Carolina's changes and how this division's changes affect Carolina, and our predictions for this team.
Well, Carolina definitely had a typical season. I guess you could say they're kind of in the middle. They're just a regular team that makes the playoffs at this point and has a okay regular season. Yeah, they played good. They didn't really lose too many guys in the offseason. They were able to keep a lot of guys, and obviously the biggest signing for them is Nikolai Ehlers. That is going to be their biggest signing from the offseason, and he's really going to make a difference, I think, making this team more of a 180, a 360 team. And adding all those necessary players. Sebastian Aho, Andrei Svechnikov, Seth Jarvis, also definitely going to still be key players for the Carolina Hurricanes this year. The big problem for the Carolina Hurricanes is they've begun, also typical, march towards not being a playoff team. They've exited anywhere from the second to the Eastern Conference Final the past couple of years, and are slowly starting to become a team that runs into lack of physicality and lack of quality in the postseason. We saw that blatantly obvious in their series against the eventual Stanley Cup champions in the Florida Panthers. So Carolina's got some work to do. They need to be more consistent in the postseason. They need to be more of a team with a bite in the regular season as well. They're a good team in the regular season, but they really have got to show more consistency and more, not so much mediocrity, how do we say that word, but just a more consistent and kind of game with a bite in the regular season so that they can show off and be more confident going into the postseason and play with more fire.
Yeah, and I just think, like you said, they're a team that makes the playoffs consistently, but I feel like, yeah, they are that type of team, but it's nothing necessarily beyond that. You see them it's nothing too special. I feel like the upside, I don't see too much there. You have some young talent like Stankoven, Svechnikov's still young, Jarvis is still young, but all around, it's not as young as you'd like it, especially teams that we were looking at in the Atlantic the past few episodes. Young, a bunch of upside. I feel like the Carolina Hurricanes don't have too much upside. And I think you'll consistently see them making those playoffs, but I don't think you'll see them doing stuff in the playoffs. They're a good team. They're a good team. Nothing against that, but they need to become a great team, obviously, to make that next step. And they need to make some moves to do that, obviously. But like Buffalo Sabres talking about a few episodes back, they have young talent that's coming up. The Carolina needs to make moves to get better. They don't have that young talent coming up like some of the other teams in the league. And that's what you need. Goalies as well, nothing special in the net. Another big part of this team.
Yeah, I think if you're Carolina, there's like good news and bad news based on how last season went. The bad news is Sebastian Aho and Andrei Svechnikov had a bit of a regression compared to the years prior. Little lower in points production. So if that continues, obviously that that's not a good thing already to start seeing regression from those guys. But the good news is they still finished second in the Metropolitan with those guys having not spectacular years. Uh, Sebastian Aho was their leading scorer with 74 points. You'd think with the team at the caliber as Carolina, second in the Metropolitan, that there was more output there. You had Aho 74, Jarvis 67, and then Svechnikov all the way down at 48. So outside of those top two, you had kind of a middle pack that gave you some good production, but no one on this team really set themselves apart as like a star in the league really this year or set the league on fire, which could be a good thing for Carolina. I could see some of these guys having bounce back years, Svechnikov having a bigger year, Aho even having a bigger year. And I think the biggest upside on this team is Seth Jarvis. I think he's probably the brightest spot for Carolina. Still on the younger side of things, and was only a little bit under a point per game this season, 67 points in 73 games. So I could very easily see him be over a point per game player and hopefully play all 82 this year. And I think he's obviously someone you've got for hopefully the future as well. As you said, with kind of this team. This team used to be a young team just a few years ago, was like that team coming up. And then now you've had those playoff years. And I think you want to be in win now if you're in Carolina. And I'd like to say that they made those moves to be in the win now position, but I don't think they did enough this offseason. I think if you really want to go for it and push past the Eastern Conference Final, there's got to be a few more changes. But I think with the team you have, you're still like a playoff team. I don't think you're missing the playoffs, but obviously the end goal is Stanley Cup Finals. So there's some areas that they still have to figure out and round out. And we'll see kind of how that progresses. But
yeah, just to reiterate what all you guys were saying, they're not where I want to see them be, where they need to be for a good run at the playoffs and further into the playoffs. Right now, as I see it, I don't believe they're making the playoffs, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, just with who they've got and the attendees and all of that, they just need some more depth, I think, and just to be a few moves to get a little higher in the playoffs and stuff like that. I don't think they're a win now team right now. So,
and I think we touched on it a lot in our Stanley Cup podcast with how Florida handled Carolina. They need more physicality, and I feel like they didn't really make too many moves in that direction. I also think, like you said, they need a little bit more depth. Their top six is pretty solid, and their top six is going to be there for a while. Their first line is all on either the first or second year of 6+ year contracts. So you've got those guys for a while. And now adding Ehlers to that top line is going to be a big, big part for them. But I do think you need some physicality in there. But I think this team has the potential to be a higher offensive output team than they were last year. And I think they're probably going to need that with the goaltending. I don't think Frederik Andersen is getting better. I don't think you can ask for more than him, like from him at this point in his career. I think he's still a solid goaltender, but I don't think he's going to be improving drastically from last year. So I think the offense stepping up more is going to be very helpful in the long run for Carolina. So I think, rounding out that bottom six is starting to get up there. You have Stahl and Taylor Hall on those bottom six. So rounding out that, seeing what you can do with some of these guys who are on last year's of contracts. Stankoven is on last year of contract. Seeing you got to make decisions on these kind of things and choose what direction you're kind of heading with this team, and if that's a more physical direction or a more offensive output direction or defensive minded. Those are the kind of the decisions that are going to start catching up to Carolina as you start to see these guys get older and contracts start to run out.
You were highlighting Seth Jarvis, obviously. I love Seth Jarvis. I think he's going to be a big part of this team. But yeah, Logan Stankoven, I think, will be a great piece. I mean, I think he's going to keep improving. As a Wild fan, I've seen him do stuff against us on the Dallas Stars. So he's a good player. Of course, got him by trading away Mikko Rantanen, which Mikko Rantanen was a big piece for the Dallas Stars in the playoffs. But yeah, Logan Staykoven, a lot of room for him to develop, and I'm sure they will sign him when they need to. They're smarter than that. They made that trade for Logan, and I think they were prepared to sign him. I think they'll easily be able to pick him up when they need to, and I think he'll keep improving there. I think he'll stay around a while.
Yeah, I think seeing how Ehlers plays out as well, that could be a very big time pickup. And I think will really help guys like Aho have bounce back years, having Ehlers on that line. But seeing how they mesh together, I think will be really important. But yeah, I think that's a really good pickup. Obviously, you're taking on a larger deal with Ehlers there for, I think, 6 years, putting a pretty big commitment in on him. So you want to see that pay off. But I think from a last year to this year standpoint, Ehlers makes this team that's one of their best offseason changes and additions that you can ask for, and I think will be a big like difference from last year to this year. I think we'll see how Ehlers affects their offensive output in that top six. Another team in the Metropolitan that in a similar position to Carolina, I think had the difference between these two teams. I think Columbus outdid some expectations this past year. Just missing the playoffs by 2 points, I think, wasn't much to complain about for the Blue Jackets. And I think seeing them in the 4th spot in the Metropolitan last year surprised some people. It'll be interesting to see if they can continue in that progression, if they can take that next step to a playoff team, or if it turns out to be a fluke. But I think the Columbus Blue Jackets are one of those intriguing teams that finished in the middle of the Metropolitan last year. And in my opinion, it's hard to predict if it's going to be an up from that or down from that year.
Yeah, I think they can really make a step up just with a few things going right. I mean, you have Adam Fantilli. I love Adam Fantilli. He's a great player. He's going to progress like nobody's business in these next few years. But I think looking at this past season, one of the biggest things was their goaltending. Elvis Merzlikins was not good enough. I think if he plays up to where he should be, they can make a playoff run legitimately. I think the team is there, but Elvis Merzlikins playing with a .318 goals against average and an .892 save percentage is just not good enough. You need a better starting goalie than that. Otherwise, you're not going to go anywhere. Goaltending is a big part of any team's roster. Of course, comes with defense as well, but you need him to play better to take that next step.
Yeah, I think the Columbus Blue Jackets have really good veterans. That's the word I was looking for. In Shane Monahan, Charlie Coyle, and Boone Jenner. All of those players are over 30, and they are good leaders, and they can do what's necessary to help along the younger players such as Kirill Marteko, Miles Wood, Cole Cylinder, players like that. But the goaltending is definitely going to be a problem for the Columbus Blue Jackets. In regards to the wild card, I think that Columbus Blue Jackets could be one of those teams in there that's pushing out the Detroit Red Wings. Nearly happened at the end of this past season. Columbus really made a push at the end of the season and almost made the postseason, but was unable to do so. And I think that they can be one of those teams that's right on the fringe of the wild card and pushing button heads with the Detroit Red Wings especially.
They're one of the better teams, the talk of up-and-coming teams. They're in good position. They have a good-looking lineup. They just need a couple more pieces, and they're really looking good. Just those older players like Boone Jenner and people like that just need to get in there and help out those younger guys. I mean, we talk about this with every team, but that's because it's the same with every team. The older guys got to be helping the younger guys, and I'm really looking forward to watching the Columbus Blue Jackets this year. If that goalie end can hold up, I think they have a really good shot this year. So I'm excited to watch them.
Columbus, obviously, we've talked about how much a team can rely on their fans. The fans in Columbus become such a big part of the Blue Jackets hockey. You got the cannon going off every time they score a goal. You got that atmosphere in the Nationwide Arena. If you have a good season where you're winning games, you're getting wins against teams that a lot of people wouldn't expect you to get, that really feeds the flame of those fans. And I think Columbus can really feed off of those fans as long as their goaltending is good and as long as their offensive prowess and the amount of goals they score is consistent with them winning games and getting things done. Because I'd love to go to a game in Columbus. I may have to do that this coming season just to kind of see what the atmosphere is all about. Because I will probably be going to a Wings game this year, so maybe I'll have to do the season split with those two teams and go check out that atmosphere for both those teams, because that'd be really cool. But fans make a big deal. Obviously, team playing, you got to have the veterans, but you got to have those younger kids looking up to those veterans, and that communication, that line of communication, making up the chemistry of the team. And chemistry and fans, they interlock, and those are both going to be big things for the Columbus Blue Jackets this year.
Yeah, I think the Blue Jackets have a really good balance of veteran presence and youth development. I think whenever you're a rebuilding team, everybody wants, obviously rebuild starts young, but then they always are lacking veterans and veteran presence there. You're always looking for guys to be there for your younger guys. And I think Columbus has really built a pretty good structure here. I think these next few years could become really interesting with a lot of these veteran guys at the ends of contracts coming up shortly. Then you really have to decide, is it time to hand this thing completely over to the young guys? Fantilli, I think will have a big year coming up. Kent Johnson is kind of an underrated top six player here for the Blue Jackets. Sillinger is good too. I think they have a lot of younger guys who could really break through and step into their own game. And then I think these veterans can really fill that out. You don't need to ask for point per game production from those guys. It's kind of trying to get handed over to these younger guys who are starting to step into that now. Not the young guys anymore, stepping into being kind of the face of this team. So I think even on defensive end, they have that too. I think Werenski is kind of in that middle ground. He has the experience. He's not considered old yet, but he has the experience on the defensive end and put up 82 points in 81 games as a defenseman. So putting up some big numbers, leading the team. I feel like you don't hear too much about him. There's a lot of good things, but I think still Columbus is in such a situation where the little things make or break the season by large proportions. The goaltending and these different things take this team from borderline playoffs to bottom three, like in the division. I could see this team finishing well out of the playoffs if a few of those things go wrong, a few of those things go right. I could see this team maybe sneaking in. So yeah, I feel like they're in, because of all this like balance of, they're kind of like right in the middle, and the pendulum could swing either one way or the other. But I feel like it's not really going to be sitting in one spot. I feel like it's going to be a make or break type of year in Columbus.
And yeah, we always talk about veterans and youth. And I think they have that and more. They have those middle-aged guys, if you will. They have Werenski, 28. They have Fabro, 27. They have Provorov, 28 as well. Like, they have experience, youth development, so you can get better, and still people who are getting better, but people who have experience as well. Looking at this team, there's no one on this team that you necessarily think of, he's a goal scorer. He will put up 82 points each season. I mean, Werenski goes under the radar for being a very good defenseman. Looking at this team, it's really a team. Everything has to work together for this team. And I think that's the beauty of this team. Especially if Merzlikins plays better this next season, this team can play hockey together. They have the chemistry that we've talked about in the past on these episodes. And I think it can fit. I think it really can fit veterans in between veterans and young talent. And I think it'd be exciting to be a Columbus Blue Jackets fan right now. I think they're on the way up.
Yeah, I think if you're a Columbus fan, I don't know. I feel like there's excitement and nerves. I feel like based on kind of last season and then this off season, there's so many different directions this team could end up, even like we're talking short term or even in the next few years, with a lot of these guys towards the end of their deals. Obviously, I see them building around Fantilli and Johnson and these younger guys. Yeah, I think these older guys are really going to help the development of these guys too. I think a lot of teams wish they had what the Blue Jackets have for their younger stars. You see a lot of rebuilding teams have one or two veterans to help the young guys. These guys have a lot of veterans to not only help them adjust to the league and get that stuff, but kind of show them the ropes. And I think you're going to really see that in the development in Columbus. I don't think they're super deep in either regard, but I think that does help. You got more guys coming up and stuff. And then I think this is the kind of cycle you want to start with younger guys getting taught by the veterans. When those veterans move out, you've got your next leaders already built. And I think I don't know, it's a lot could happen this year. I think they're kind of the wild card, not like as in a playoff stance. They're the wild card of this division. Could throw a wrench in a lot of people's plans.
Yeah, and I think going back to veterans and rookies, we've talked on it a lot. And a lot of the older guys, 30-year-olds, I'm talking, they're not old, okay? Those old-ish guys, the veterans on this team, if you will, are on the ending part of their contract, which is scary. You can't keep everyone, but the nice thing is you can pretty much pick and choose. All of their veterans, they have experience, but they're still young enough where you can still give them money for a long time and be comfortable with it. You're not worried they're going to fall off and retire.
And you can still trade them for some pretty good value.
Exactly.
So, yeah, the veterans give you choices in multiple ways for either keeping them or letting them go. Either way, I think you kind of get benefit.
Right now, they only have 3 veterans that are parked for the next 2 years. The remainder of their roster is flexible to seeing players leave, and having a fringe team that is right on the edge of going back into the postseason. You want to try and retain that contract. They have space too. They have $16 million cap space, but Shane Monahan, Charlie Coyle, and Zach Rowinski and Ivan Provorov. So four guys that are parked for at least the next 2 years on no trade clauses. No movement clauses, so not even a no trade clause yet. They are the guys you want to still utilize to see if you can make the postseason. Because I believe the last time they made the postseason was that crazy run where they swept the President's Trophy winners, Tampa Bay Lightning. Is that correct? I believe that's correct. Retain those guys and try and utilize those guys and see if they can squeak into the postseason here in the next 2 years, which I think is totally something I think could happen.
To your point, Jeremiah, it's scary. It really is. It can be very sketchy because it can all go downhill if you don't play this right as the general manager. It can all work out if you play this right as the general manager. I think you have to have confidence in your general manager as a fan. The young talents there, building this, keeping this alive. I think, of course, that's the job when you're in this business. I think the general manager can do that. Upside. I like the upside. It's lovely. Hopefully Merzlikins plays better. I think they can crack the playoffs this year. So
if you like franchise mode on NHL, you want to pick a fun team to be general manager of, I think the Columbus Blue Jackets could be a really fun one. Yeah, that's going to be the next few years big time decisions for a general manager that could make you loved or hated in Columbus. And I think the goaltending is going to be huge for Columbus. Another team with some interesting goaltending, New Jersey Devils. The goalie tandem of a 34 and 35-year-old. However you want to feel about that. One of them is Jacob Markstrom. And one is Jake Allen. So two well-known, obviously more veteran goaltenders. And then obviously the Devils have a lot of bigger names and a lot of spotlight on this team because of kind of the progression of the last few years and the younger guys they've kind of built up in this program. Devils are a fun team to watch, and I think this next year is going to be no different.
Just in the playoffs, I mean, Jacob Markstrom was looking like a god. Like, he was insane. I mean, the way they went out, what was it, like 50 saves, and his team couldn't do anything for him. You could tell after the goal went in, when they got eliminated, he wanted to break his stick right out his teammate. I felt so bad for him, watching him just make save after save. However many saves that was. I mean, yeah, he's old, but I think you could trust him for a while. Exactly 900 save percentage and 250 goals against average during the season. But also looking past the goaltenders, it's a lot of the same as the Columbus Blue Jackets. You got some good balance. You got some young talent. You got people like Jack Hughes, who are already superstars, can carry an offense. But you also got young talent coming up, and you got those older guys that are keeping the younger guys grounded and hopefully bring them up.
The Devils need to stay healthy. They lost Jack Hughes just prior to the postseason, and then they proceeded to lose Luke Hughes during the postseason. Stay healthy and really grow and mature your defense, because that is why Markstrom had to work his rear end off in the postseason, because the Carolina Hurricanes were a very aggressive team in that first round series, and the Devils did not have the defense to withstand them. Albeit, 3 of those games went to overtime? I think 3 of those games in that series went to overtime. So the Devils have the stamina, I guess. But at the same time, they give away issues in the worst possible areas. Back to the whole Markstrom thing of hitting his stick. Luke Hughes went out because Markstrom hit him. So we need to stop with we need to have everybody calm down and have a calm demeanor about them, especially in high stakes postseason situations, because the Devils probably could have had a better shot at taking on the Carolina Hurricanes, because the Carolina Hurricanes do have things that you can attack them and make them make their mistakes. They got really good defensive core too. They got Dougie Hamilton. They got Brett Pesci. They got probably my least favorite NHLer in the entire world, Brendan Dillon. But he's an enforcer. He is one of those guys that is going to probably injure one of your players on the opposing team at some point. Sorry, I'm really sore. He's had a couple of go-arounds at Pens players. But Brendan Dillon is a good player. You got some of the younger kids as well for the defense as well. And then you go up to the offense, and of course you got Timo Meier, Jack Hughes, Jesper Bratt, Nico Hischier, Andre Palat. I don't know how many years Andre Palat has left of really quality hockey. He is currently in a position right now where he has a no movement clause and a modified no trade clause. So he's not allowed to be traded for the next 2 years, but then after those 2 years go up in 27-28, he becomes an unrestricted free agent. Let's be honest, I think that Andre Palat only has 2 more years good of hockey, and then when he goes into the unrestricted free agent. Same for Nico Hischier, although Nico Hischier is way younger, he's got a lot more years of hockey left. The Devils need to re-sign him. So the Devils need to retain the talent they have and do better on defense and stay healthy, for crying out loud. Stay healthy.
Looking at this team, similarities in the age-wise to the Columbus Blue Jackets, I'll come back to that. But the thing I want to look at right now is contracts. You're not in the worst place. You're not in the best place. And that's kind of the same thing for the ages. I think their veterans, like we were talking for the Blue Jackets, the Blue Jackets have a really nice core of veterans because they can still play hockey for a while. Like you can still sign them and be comfortable. I think the Devils have that, but there's also a few of them that you're a little bit worried are gonna take a step down. People like Andre Palat. You're not necessarily scared. I mean, Dadonov, 1 year left on his contract. He's 36. He'll probably be taking a step back as well if they re-sign him. You have some age. It could be rocky. I feel like looking at the Columbus Blue Jackets, their upside is like 75-25. Here it's 50-50. I feel like it can
Please do not tell me you think the Blue Jackets are a better team than the Devils.
upside. I'm not going to necessarily say that, but I think they could be next year. I'm not going to stick to that. I think I just mean down the road the Columbus Blue Jackets look better. Right now, New Jersey Devils mentality needs to be win right now. You have to do something right now. Go make a big move. I mean, you have Jack Hughes. You don't need to make too many big moves. You have the talent. Stay healthy. Mesh it all together. You got a gap. And I think that gap can be extended, but I think it's kind of on the back end.
The Devils' goalie problems are going to really become on them very fast. Jake Allen is signed through 2030 for $3 million less. $3 million less than Jacob Markstrom is. Jacob Markstrom's contract ends at the end of this year. Now, albeit, he's getting paid $4 million, but 31% of Jacob Markstrom's contract is still being paid by the Calgary Flames after that trade. So that's helping the Devils out and is keeping them level on their cap space because they only have 6% of their cap space available. So they have got to be very careful what they do because I don't think they're going to be able to re-sign Jacob Markstrom for what is thinking he's worth. He's getting paid $4.1 million. Jake Allen's getting paid $1.8 million. And Jacob Markstrom is on his final contract. Jake Allen has 5 years on his contract left. I don't know if they're going to be able to keep Markstrom. He's the unrestricted free agent next season. So the goaltending is going to be very, very problematic soon. So yeah, win now and stay healthy.
Yeah, and you guys, I'm just listening to all this, and you guys keep pushing it in Jack Hughes. And I'm just looking at stats here. I'm not at all suggesting that Jack Hughes is not a good player. He is a very good player. But points, Bratt. Goals, Heischer. Assists, Bratt. The only thing that Jack Hughes is on the top of is plus minus. Now I'm not saying that.
I'm sorry.
I'm not saying he's a bad player. I'm not saying there's better players on the team.
Games. 20 games is a lot of games. Bro is still over a point per game.
I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying this is not me hating on him. This is me just saying you guys keep talking about Jack Hughes. There's another team behind him. Jack Hughes is not the only part of this New Jersey Devils team. And like I said, Jack Hughes, great player. For right now, I just want to take a step back and look at the team he's got. I mean, these guys, we got 88 points, 70 points, 69 points, 53. Very, very well spread out. Very good in goals and assists. I mean, leader had 67 assists. That is quite a lot. It's just a very well-rounded team. And yes, Jack Hughes being healthy, being there, is just going to make it better. But this team, with the points they have and the overall stats you see, is looking really, really promising. If they even have a little bit of a single person step up, and then Jack Hughes come back, I can see a very, very different outcome to the playoffs next year.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I didn't realize Jack Hughes was out for that long. Goodness me, whoa! This is a high-powered offense. You can have...
so good defensively. They were the best defensive team through the first half of the season, which is crazy. They didn't need Jack Hughes this whole time this season. The Devils were the best defensive team through the first half of the season, which no one talked about once they stopped. But that carried them into the postseason. Jack Hughes went out for the majority of the second half of the season. And because of how good the Devils were in the first half, they were carried into the postseason. They need to be more consistent on that defensive front. And Jack Hughes and Nico Hischier are the face of that team, especially Nico Hischier after he was drafted not too long ago as the preface of the rebuild for the New Jersey Devils. But they have what it takes to be good defensively. They were the best team in the NHL. Goals against average, all that good stuff, through the entire first half of the season, if I'm not mistaken. And they need to do that through the entire season because the Metropolitan Division is a very difficult division, and you've got to be good defensively. If you're good defensively in the Metropolitan Division, I would be stressed to say that it is the Eastern Conference division that is most equivalent to the Western Conference because the Western Conference is always a little higher than the Eastern Conference. I don't know if you would agree with me on that, but I feel like points-wise and stuff, the Western Conference is a lot different than the Eastern Conference, but the Metropolitan is probably the closest.
As someone who used to hate Jack Hughes, I think Jack Hughes has become a really good player and more likable person since the way he entered. Saw him play his rookie year in person in that year he was going up against Kirby DeHuck in rookie. So I was obviously very against Jack Hughes, but how that all planned out, Jack Hughes was obviously the best player in that draft. Very clear. And yeah, now you see him really stepping into, honestly, I could see him becoming the face of the league in the next few years. Not the face of the league. He's 24 years old already, which is wild to me. It shows I'm getting old that he's 24. Hischier's 26. I remember when these guys are getting drafted, and it doesn't seem like that long ago. So pretty crazy. Switching from one first overall pick to the latest first overall pick, the team that basically stole first overall this year, the New York Islanders, are an interesting spot. Again, they finished 6th in the division last year, but I feel like also have a lot of things that could make this next season go one way or the other.
Yeah, the New York Islanders, they have not been very consistent as of late, I'll be honest. They really made poor decisions in the offseason this year, to be perfectly honest. They got a lot of injuries right now. Matthew Barzal, Anthony Duclair, Bo Horvat, Ryan Pollock, Simeon Varlamov. Matthew Barzal is the face of the New York Islanders. Can still utilize a chance. I think they're almost a team that is ready to be a postseason team again. The New York Islanders have not gone deep in the 21st century in the postseason. Even in the John Tavares era, all that good stuff. They got players like Matthew Barzal, Bo Horvat, Andreas Lee, Jean-Gabriel Pageau, Jonathan Drouin, all guys who have playoff experience and want to be challenged in the postseason. I don't know if they can do that. I don't know if they have the goaltending for that. In regards to the defense, nothing really stands out to me defensively. Tony DeAngelo has had a lot of off-ice issues that he needs to really nip in the bud and play some actual hockey. He's had a lot of issues, and he has not shown himself to be a defensive player that contributes to whatever team he's on. He had a lot of issues when he was with the Rangers, spent some time with Carolina. You got Adam Boqvist and Tony DeAngelo, who are both in their final year of their contract. Boqvist will be a restricted free agent. Tony DeAngelo will be an unrestricted free agent. Scott Mayfield, Adam Pelech, Ryan Pollock, Alexander Romanov are the other bigger defensive players. So really nothing is standing out to me defensively, which is the problem that the Islanders had last year. They were not a very good defensive team. They were at the bottom of the league for goals against, and they just really were unable to keep the puck out of the net. And I don't think that's so much with the goalies, because David Riddick is a good goaltender. Ilya Sorokin is still an underrated goaltender. He's not a very good goaltender to the extent of like something big, but goaltending has changed so much in the NHL. Ilya Sorokin, though, is still underrated as a goaltender. And I think that if he gets a defense that's in front of him, he's signed through 2032. So he is the face of Islanders hockey. He's got 3 more years at least as probably the starting goaltender for the Islanders. And then You got David Riddick, who is in his final year of his contract before he's an unrestricted free agent. He didn't get much ice time this year in the trade over from, I believe, Calgary. So maybe we can see him become a part of the team. So the Islanders' biggest thing this year is going to be defense. They've got to be better defensively. They've got to keep the puck away from their net. They have the goaltending though. So if it does get to their net, they have them backstop. They have 59% of their cap available. Use it. Go find a trade. I know that the goalie market and I know that the defensive market, I know the trade market in general is picked clean. There are not a lot of top quality candidates that are just sitting there like, oh, it'd be crazy if this team got this player. Nikolai Ehlers was probably the last player. The trade market, the goalie market's atrocious right now. But the trade market in general, there's not a lot of good players out there, but maybe make some movement. Try and see if you can find a way to make a deal with a team, maybe a contending team, because the Islanders are not a contending team right now. What do you got to do to be better defensively, and how do you better utilize your offense to become a team that is interested in the playoffs? Because right now, I do not see the Islanders as a team that is interested in the playoffs or is pursuing the playoffs right now. They are still in the rebuild stage because they do not have the necessary players, all the necessary players. They have some of the necessary players to make a playoff run. Sorry, Islander fans. It's just the truth, and I'm sure you're well aware of it. It's been a while since the Islanders have been in the postseason.
Two things up front here. First, this is just a kind of crazy thought. 2032, it's crazy that we're even considering 2032 in a contract. Seems like it'd be so far away. I'm graduating college that year. That's insane. Okay. Second thing, and this is my brutally honest thoughts about this team. This is the epitome of mid. Matthew Schaefer, great number one pick. Insane that they got the number one pick. But, yeah, I just don't see upside. I see a lot of, not necessarily downside, but you have contracts that are on the end. Yeah, you have the money probably to keep them, but do you have skill, the draw to your team that they're going to stay with you? They could test free agency, boom, they're gone. So maybe you have the money to keep them around, but I just...
Patrick Waugh needs to do something with the players he has in front of him. He has not shown himself to be a valid NHL coach. I'm sorry, it's just got to be said. Patrick Waugh was an amazing goaltender. He was an amazing goaltender. He's not a very good NHL coach. I don't know what it is. I'm not sure if he just is not good at utilizing the talent he has placed before him. I don't say get rid of him. I think that he is in a really good place to be the coach of this team and do something with the players he has. But he's got to find a way to bring out that talent. Because right now, Patrick Waugh, as a coach, who knows that Patrick Waugh is the coach of the Islanders? I kind of forgot. But you gotta do something with the players you have to be recognized as a valid NHL coach. And yeah, come out of that section of mediocre, because that's where you are right now as an Islander. Do something with the team, the players you have, Patrick Waugh, because it's time to do something as a New York Islander. Make something of your team.
He's good at getting goalies.
Yes.
I feel like you never see a goalie necessarily. You see some good goalies
That's because top 20 all-time goaltenders in the NHL, Patrick Waugh. Probably top 10.
Easily.
He's good at finding the goalies. I totally agree with that statement. But again, I just don't see him drawing the talent out of the players that he has in front of him.
We already touched on the defense a little bit. This defense wasn't great last year. This defense got worse. You lost Noah Dobson.
Yeah, biggest loss of the year.
And that's a void that's hard to fill already. But you already didn't have much to begin. That was your best defensive player right there, and you lost him for a fourth line winger and 2 picks. So the repercussions you're not going to see that payoff. That was the kind of move that makes me think rebuild. And as an Islanders fan, you probably don't want to hear that yet. And I don't think, based on the rest of the moves they've made, that they're fully committed to that. They're not. They're definitely not feeling win now at all. you've got some young guys, and if you can have a healthy season from basically anybody on the team, they had maybe 5 guys who played a full season. That is not a joke. They 82 games was very, very rare to find on this team. Barzal only played 30 games. As an Islanders fan, that's exciting for this year to have those guys, hopefully for a full year.
He's getting more and more prone to injury too.
Hopefully you get these guys back for a full year, and that makes a difference. But off-season moves and things like that, this team didn't get better. So you just really hope there's improvement, whether that comes through the coaching style that Waugh brings, or that comes through just progression in these players, healthy seasons. But that's where you're going to have to see improvement for this team, because you're not seeing it from a contract and trade standpoint.
Rebuild, you never want to think that as a general manager. Obviously, you don't want to be that guy that brings the rebuild to town. But I feel like they're keeping their heads above water. Heads above water. They're just being mid, like I was talking about. To put it bluntly, once you see people like Anders Lee leave because the team's not good enough, he wants to go ring chase, then you have to commit. And I mean, I think on the last year of your contract, if you're 35, you know you're thinking about what's in the future for you. And I think the Islanders need to seriously consider what they're doing in the future. If it's rebuild or keep trying, because if you want to commit, you should commit now. You can never, can't say that actually. You can start a rebuild too early, but try and start it before before you have no value to help that rebuild.
If you're the Islanders, though, if you're thinking win now, who do you win with? And if you're thinking rebuild, who do you build around? Schaefer will be a good piece, and obviously he'll be an untouchable, I feel like, for this team, unless he's a bust. But I think I have high upside on Schaefer. I think he's going to have a very bright future in the NHL. I don't know how intrigued Barzal would be in heading a rebuild at this point in his career. I don't know if you can even trust him to be the guy you build around. So it's like, I don't know. I think Levi said this at the beginning of our talk on the Islanders. Where's the upside? It's like there's no one really. You're not so young that you have guys to build around, but you're not so old that you're like irrelevant. It's just like they're just stuck in the middle ground, and it's such a hard place to be for a general manager, for coach, for player. It's this season, I think, affects really the direction of this team so greatly. We're not talking playoffs, but we're talking the next 5 to 10 years of Islanders hockey. If you're a fan, this year makes or breaks whether you guys are going into some kind of rebuild, or if you can somehow, with this roster, turn this into a team that you can still win somewhat in the near future.
And that's the thing. Barzal, he's 28. You have him till 2031. Again, bring up the big time future, which is crazy. But if you're going rebuild, you have to get rid of him, or he's going to come up and tell you, I don't want to play for you anymore. If you take the rebuild, he's going to want to leave. You don't rebuild with a player like Matthew Barzal. He's on, like I said, he's on contract for a while. If they go rebuild route, which I'm sure, I think they will, I think they'll have to do it before his contract is up. And then I think that turns into having to get rid of him, whether that be a requested trade or just we're rebuilding. Let's go trade him for something younger and maybe some picks. Like, I don't want to off-value him, but that's what you got to do for a rebuild sometimes.
Yeah, and I think if you're committed to the rebuild, you're going to see a lot of those people go, whether, just like you guys were saying, whether it be on a trade or they want out of there. And I just wanted to bring it back a second to the stats and how many games were played. For the top 2 scorers, we have Bo Horvat and Andres Lee. 2 big names. They both played a good amount of games, 82 and 81 games. But then when you look at the points, you only see 57 and 54. I mean, those were their top two scorers. That's not a place you want to be in. If those are your top two scorers, you're not in a good position. I don't think anybody wants to be in that position, but especially guys getting a little older in their careers, you'll see them leave. Whether it be on their own time or on the team's time.
I think, though, health will make a big difference for this team. You get some people healthy, this team could still do some damage and obviously improve in point production, just with by purely having guys play. So if you're an Islanders fan, don't take it as all hope is lost.
But all
But
hope is lost.
whether you're a fan of any of these teams, let us know what you think about your team, or about any of the teams you talk about, or the Metropolitan Division. We've got four very intriguing teams coming up next as well, and those will be very fun to talk about. So this has been episode 1 of the Metropolitan Division. Catch us next time for episode 2, and have a good one. Peace.